They didn't come as enemies, no enemies you can see. These came as family, as friends, as people who knew your soul and still chose to twist the knife. They smiled when you shared your dreams, then whispered doubts behind your back. They called you family, not out of love, but as a disguise, to get close enough to sabotage what they secretly resented. You didn't fail because you were weak. You fell because you were real in a room full of masks. But here's what they didn't expect. That fall wasn't your end. It was your awakening. The illusion of brotherhood. There is a wound that cuts deeper than open betrayal. The betrayal wrapped in affection. The kind that smiles in your face and calls you family, while secretly hoping for your fall. It is not the blow from a stranger that breaks most people. It's the hidden hand from someone who claimed to love you. And that is the most disorienting part, because you trusted their words, not realizing those words were only meant to disarm you. In life, we are taught to believe that family, biological or chosen, represents safety. It's supposed to be where you rest, where you are known, where you're allowed to be vulnerable. But not every hand that touches your back is meant to hold you up. Some hands are just steadying themselves to push you down more accurately. It's a difficult truth to swallow, that not all who walk beside you want to see you arrive, and some are only there to make sure you don't. What makes this kind of betrayal so complex is the confusion it creates. You begin to question your own perception. Was I blind? Did I miss the signs? Was I naive to believe they cared? But your trust was not the problem. Their dishonesty was. You didn't fall because you were foolish. You fell because someone you cared about decided to weaponize your openness, and no one deserves that. People who plot behind your back while smiling in your face often do so not because you hurt them, but because your light exposed something they were unwilling to confront in themselves. Your drive reminded them of their passivity. Your character revealed their lack of integrity. Your progress magnified their stagnation. And rather than grow, some choose to pull others down to feel taller. But that is not strength. That is fear acting through false closeness. Often, these individuals will invoke the language of loyalty as a shield. They'll say things like, "You're like a brother to me," or "I'll always have your back." But these words are spoken not to protect you, but to keep you from suspecting them. They confuse loyalty with possession. They want you loyal to them, but they won't stay loyal to you. The word family becomes less about connection and more about control. And that's where the illusion lies. What's even more painful is realizing how long it takes to see clearly. When someone you trust begins to undermine you, it doesn't always come in dramatic explosions. It comes in small, quiet moments, passive comments meant to plant doubt, subtle distancing, unexplained silence when others attack you. They don't stab you outright. They slowly remove the support beams and wait for the collapse. And when it comes, they'll stand there and pretend to be shocked by the very downfall they engineered. But there is a turning point in this journey, a point where the confusion lifts, where you stop blaming yourself and start recognizing the truth. Not everyone who says, "I love you," is committed to your well-being. Some are only committed to the benefits of being near you, and the moment those benefits dry up, or your light becomes too bright for their comfort, they shift quietly, strategically, and always with a smile. This is where wisdom begins, when you stop measuring loyalty by words and start measuring it by actions, when you stop confusing proximity with protection, when you understand that real family does not envy your growth, they celebrate it. They don't plot your fall, they help carry your weight, and if they don't, then calling them family only dignifies their deception. What was meant to destroy you actually opens your eyes, and that clarity, painful as it is, becomes your freedom. Betrayal is a mirror, not a verdict. When someone turns their back on you, the first instinct is to internalize the blame. You ask yourself what you did wrong, what you failed to see, and how you could have prevented the fallout. The betrayal doesn't just hurt, it confuses. It shakes your sense of self because it came from someone who once looked at you with kindness. But here is the truth. Betrayal says far more about the person committing it than the one enduring it. What people do to you in secret is a reflection of their own inner conflict. Their actions reveal their insecurities, their hidden battles, and the parts of themselves they haven't yet faced. When someone betrays a person who trusted them, it's rarely about the victim. It's about the betrayer's inability to live honestly with themselves. They see something in you that threatens their comfort. Maybe it's your integrity. Maybe it's your consistency. Maybe it's your quiet strength. And instead of growing into their potential, they decide to undermine yours. We often forget that human behavior is deeply revealing. When someone chooses to deceive or harm someone who has shown them nothing but loyalty, that decision reflects their character, not yours. It shows a disconnect between who they appear to be and who they truly are when no one is watching. And when that truth comes to the surface, it forces you to face an uncomfortable realization. You were not dealing with a friend, but with someone who wore the mask of one. This realization can break a person if they're not grounded. Because betrayal doesn't only bruise your trust in others, it bruises your trust in yourself. You wonder how you missed the signs, you replay conversations, you examine moments of silence or hesitation. But this constant self-blame is a trap. You did not invite the betrayal, you simply walked in with an open heart, and that is not weakness, that is something rare, something the world desperately needs more of, not less. The danger of betrayal is not just the pain it brings, it's the lies it whispers. It tells you that you are not enough, that your openness was foolish, that your love was wasted. But all of those conclusions are false. What someone did to you is not a verdict on your value. It's a mirror exposing their lack of alignment with truth. Their disloyalty is not a measure of your worth, but a confession of their own fears and failures. In time, what once felt like a breaking point can become a breakthrough. You begin to see clearly. You stop trying to fix the image others projected onto you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. And you realize that the betrayal, painful as it was also revealing. It taught you to see behind the mask. It taught you to stop clinging to words when actions speak louder. And most of all, it taught you to honor your own intuition, especially when it whispers what you don't want to hear. There's a quiet strength that grows in people who have been betrayed but chose not to let bitterness define them. Instead of closing their hearts, they become more discerning. Instead of isolating themselves, they choose intentional connection. They don't let betrayal poison their future, they let it purify their circle. When you realize that betrayal is not about your failure, but about someone else's fear, you stop carrying what was never yours. You forgive not to excuse what was done, but to stop letting it live inside you, and you rise, not with vengeance but with wisdom, because the most powerful response to betrayal is not revenge, it's clarity. And once you have that, no one can take it from you again. The rise after the fall they designed, they thought they had it all figured out. The whispers behind closed doors, the quiet moves that were never meant to be noticed. The strategic absence when you needed them most. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a plan, a quiet one, a subtle one. A plan built on the hope that you wouldn't recover. that you would break under the weight of what they did in secret. They didn't just want you to fall, they wanted you to stay down. What they didn't realize is that some people are built from deeper foundations. You don't rise because it's easy. You rise because you've been through enough to know that staying down is not an option. When everything collapsed, they expected the pieces to bury you, but you used those same pieces to rebuild yourself, stronger, wiser, clearer, and more grounded than ever before. The fall they designed was supposed to define you. That was their goal. If you could be broken, they could justify their betrayal. If you stayed down, they could tell themselves the story that they were right to walk away. But something powerful happens when you rise from what was meant to destroy you. It forces the truth into the light. It shatters the illusions they tried to build about who you are and what you're capable of. Rising after betrayal is not about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. You rise because your purpose is bigger than the pain they caused. You rise because you understand something most people don't. Pain doesn't stop purpose. If anything, it refines it. It sharpens your awareness. It clears out the people who were only there for the easy chapters, and it shows you what you're really made of. But rising isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's rebuilding your confidence in silence. It's healing your heart away from the noise. It's waking up every day and choosing not to be defined by what happened. And slowly you grow, you mature, you let go of what you can't control. And one day, without even realizing it, you're no longer just surviving, you're thriving. And here's what they didn't prepare for: the strength that grows in silence. The kind of strength that doesn't need validation or revenge. The kind that doesn't shout back but builds forward. While they were focused on tearing down your name, you were quietly rebuilding your foundation. While they were waiting for you to collapse, you were learning how to stand taller than ever. Your rise is not just about overcoming, it's about outgrowing. You outgrow their limitations. You outgrow the roles they wanted you to stay trapped in. You outgrow the small space they tried to confine you to. And when you rise, you realize you no longer fit the version of yourself they betrayed. You've evolved, you've expanded, you've become more than what they could ever reduce you to. The most powerful part of your comeback isn't just that you made it. It's that you didn't lose your heart along the way. You kept your soul intact. You didn't let what they did harden you into someone bitter or cold. That's what truly confounds those who plotted your downfall. You rose, and you still love, you still believe, you still dream, and that is strength they never accounted for. They designed your fall, but you designed your future. And now that you're standing again, they're forced to face what they never expected. That the story isn't over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Silent loyalty is louder than loud deceit. There is something powerful about those who remain quiet but present when your world starts shaking. They don't announce their loyalty. They don't draw attention to their support. They simply stay. In a world where words are often used as currency to buy trust, it's the silent acts of loyalty that carry the most weight. The ones who betray you often spoke the loudest. They made grand declarations of loyalty. They called you family in front of others. They promised to stand with you no matter what. But when challenges came, they disappeared without a word. And when you needed support, they watched in silence, or worse, aligned themselves with those who hoped you would fall. This is the painful reality many face. Those who make the loudest promises are not always the ones who show up when it matters. Words are easy, they cost nothing, but showing up in the dark moment, standing beside you when it's inconvenient or unpopular, that's the true measure of loyalty, and that kind of loyalty often doesn't shout. It simply stands still, steady, faithful. Loyalty is not performance. It's not demonstrated in front of crowds or proved through social gestures. It's shown in quiet actions. A message when no one else is reaching out. A helping hand when everyone else turns away. A presence that doesn't demand attention but offers strength. These are the people who become your real foundation, not the ones who claimed the title of family, but the ones who lived like it. Deceit, on the other hand, often dresses itself in noise. It makes a show of support while hiding motives. It claps when you succeed, but quietly resents your growth. It smiles in photos, but turns its back when you're no longer useful. And the most dangerous part, it's not always visible at first. It hides behind charm, behind shared history, behind the illusion of closeness, but eventually, truth finds its way to the surface. Over time, you begin to notice. You see who's missing when life gets hard. You notice who grows silent when your name is under pressure. You see who listens to your struggles only to repeat them in other rooms, and then something within you shifts. You stop chasing loud loyalty. You stop needing the performance. You start looking for consistency, for integrity, for people who don't need to announce their role in your life because they live it quietly, consistently, and truthfully. This shift is painful, but it is freeing, because once you learn to stop measuring connection by noise, you start to find peace. You begin to value the few over the many. You stop trying to keep people who only stay when the lights are on. And you start cherishing those who walk with you even in silence, even in shadows, even in storms. And in that silence, you rebuild, not just your life, but your understanding of what true loyalty means. It's no longer about words. It's about presence. It's about energy that supports you without needing to be praised. It's about people who don't compete with you, don't compare themselves to you, and don't betray you when the road gets hard. These are the ones who become your true circle, not by declaration but by devotion. Those who stayed without needing to be seen are the ones who deserve the spotlight, and those who left, despite all their noise, fade into the background. Because time has a way of revealing what loyalty really looks like, and when the dust settles, silence speaks louder than any performance ever could. Their guilt will outlive your pain. Pain is immediate. It arrives with force, without warning, and leaves you breathless in the moment it strikes. Betrayal especially hits with a sharpness few wounds can match. You feel it in your chest, your thoughts, your spirit. And yet, as consuming as that pain is, it has one significant advantage over guilt: it passes. In the aftermath of betrayal, you carry the weight of confusion, disbelief, and sorrow. You wonder why someone who once stood beside you chose to harm you. You question the memories, the promises, the shared laughter. Pain distorts your reality, but over time it begins to shift. It moves from being unbearable to becoming a scar. It never fully disappears, but it becomes part of your story, something you learn to carry with strength. But guilt, the kind that comes from betraying someone who trusted you, is different. Guilt doesn't fade as easily. It lingers. It shows up at unexpected times. It whispers in quiet moments. It revisits long after the damage has been done. And for those who plotted your fall while calling you family, that guilt becomes a silent companion they cannot escape. At first, they may feel nothing. Some betrayals are committed with confidence, even pride. They convince themselves they did what was necessary. They might even justify their actions with excuses. But time has a way of stripping away the noise. Eventually, they're left alone with their choices. And when the world quiets down, that's when guilt knocks on the door they thought they had closed for good. The people who chose to hurt you, especially when you never gave them a reason to, will come to face the weight of their actions. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even publicly, but internally, the memory of what they did to someone who only offered them trust will stay with them, because deep down, people know when they've broken something good, and that realization doesn't go away. Guilt has a way of resurfacing through reminders. It may be triggered by someone else treating them with the same kindness they once rejected, or by watching someone else receive the loyalty they threw away, or simply by seeing you rise despite what they tried to do. Every success you experience, every ounce of peace you reclaim, becomes a mirror that reflects what they lost, not because you sought revenge, but because you continued to live. And that's where the shift happens. Your pain begins to heal as you grow, as you rebuild, as you learn to trust yourself again. But their guilt deepens, not because they were punished from the outside, but because they are haunted from within. And there is no escape from the truth that lives in one's conscience. You don't have to seek justice. It comes in the form of self-awareness. Eventually, they will remember the version of you that only asked for honesty, respect, and loyalty. And they will realize they didn't just betray you. They betrayed the part of themselves that once saw value in you. That realization will last far longer than your pain ever did. Your job is not to carry their guilt or to dwell in the space they left behind. Your path is to heal, to grow, to walk forward in wisdom and peace. Let life deal with what you cannot control. Let time reveal what you no longer need to explain. Because while pain is a season, guilt is often a lifetime. And long after your tears have dried, long after your strength has returned, they will remember what they did and what it cost them.